inform the public opinion of Africans in diaspora and at home. So the European Union Parliament, they made a decision, right? And I want you to look at the details of that decision that was made by the European Union Parliament before we look at the response from the Alliance of Sahel that came back on the 17th. So the European Union Parliament passed a resolution in the House on March 12th, okay, 2026. They made demands for the immediate and unconditional release of the ex-president of Niger Republic, which is Mohamed Bazoum. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. They made demand for the immediate and unconditional release of the former president of Niger Republic, Mohamed Bazoum. Okay, for whatever reason, first of all, that resolution is very embarrassing because when I say embarrassing, I'm talking about embarrassing on the part of the European Union. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm happy to see you too, family. So the European Union passed that bill that Mohamed Bazoum, the more friendly, according to some of the speakers, they said the more European friendly political leader in the Alliance of Sahel. Now they didn't stop at that. They equally said, and Niger must return to constitutional order immediately. So I want you to get the message clearly, because a lot of people did not understand what the message was. They said they are demanding the immediate and unconditional release of Mohamed Bazoum and that the Nigerian authorities must return immediately to constitutional order. And this is a stance that challenged the legitimacy of the regime that we have in Niger Republic. And furthermore, it does not only challenge Niger. This is a challenge to Burkina Faso. This is a challenge to Mali. You see, even though what Niger has, okay, is a constitutional regime, because President Abdurrahman Chiani is a transitional president, the transitional leader in Niger. They are trying to, by all means, manufacture dissent and whatsoever. It's not working. Now they are trying to do what we call covert plan, which is, you try to undermine a regime with whatever means you have. And like I said, the Europeans have not changed their stance on Africa. If you look at that statement clearly, that statement is an abuse. It's an insult to Africans generally. Do you know what that means? It means that Africans don't, they don't know nothing about ruling themselves. Africa is a continent that is not matured enough to rule ourselves. The people of Africa don't have the right to govern themselves unless their, governance is being monitored, is being sanctioned, is being approved by the Western hegemony. And to be honest with you, the Europeans they have zero hegemony. The Europeans have no hegemony anywhere. To say the European Union is an hegemony or whatever is a lie. The Europeans are no hegemony. Okay? Thank you very much. That's a translation of that message. Okay? Even if the people of Niger are, in overwhelming support of General Abdurrahman Chiani, did you all see the fight? I mean, a lot of people are not informed. Have you seen the video of the fight by the Nigerians to push out the French ambassador to Niger? Flavor Blade, come on, where have you been? It's been so long. Oh, I'm sorry. This is off the call. I need to talk like I've seen. It's been a long time. I've seen Flavor Blade, and I'll be asking, where has she been? Hope everything is all right. I'm happy to see you back. By Design and every other person in the Android community, I'm happy to see you all. So, this is a big slap. Okay, this is a big slap, and if you're an African person and you desire to be free in your life for whatever reason at any point in your life, you should be in support of whatever is going on in the Alliance of Sahel. If you ever desire to be free, you should be in support of this regime. I know a lot of people, they don't want to be free. A lot of people just want to continue to be under certain individuals, even if it doesn't benefit them. Do you know what being under the Europeans mean? It means that if they are against Russia, you should, by proxy, because you are already a proxy, you should be against Russia. It means that if they say they are sanctioning Russia, you cannot buy anything from Russia. It means that if they say they are sanctioning China, you cannot buy anything from China. Like, it's so bad that in 2026, a lot of elements in Africa don't still understand what it is to be free. Because I've been around and I've listened to what some people are saying across my country. It's so funny that a lot of people, were kind of talking about democratic election. My question to Nigerians is, what do we have with this so-called democratic election? We had Buhari. From Buhari, we had Tinubu. You say you have democracy, but you don't have control over anything in your country. Matter of fact, Nigeria is the #1 country in the world now that have seen the highest surge in petrol price. Yes, Nigeria, 39%. Oil producing state, one of the top 5 oil producing countries in the world, right? And that same country has currently seen the highest increase in the price of gas. Even people that don't have gas at all, that don't have crude oil at all, they have not seen such. So it shows you the reasoning. I just want you to look at the reasoning of some of those people that have been criticizing, and by, should I say by modification, whatever the Europeans say, they echo. And it means that if you are the type of individual that you echo what they say, you cannot think for yourself. And when you cannot think, you are supposed, the AI is even better than you. You are not supposed to even carry the identity of humans, because you cannot decide for yourself. You cannot think for yourself. You cannot do anything for yourself. So you are programmed. So, like I said, not better than the AI. AI is even better, because you cannot, you are living by orders. So there is a response. The AES stated that the resolution constitutes a serious, concerted, and deliberate interference in the internal affairs of a sovereign state. Niger's Minister of Interior went further, calling the European Union action a diplomatic aggression. Accusation of malicious selectivity. The Sahelian Alliance accused the European Parliament of employing a double standard. They argue that the European Union remain silent on global violations of international law and ignores the severe decade-long security crisis that the Sahel region has been facing. Captain Ibrahim Traore has now given his own resolution on the issue. He completely rejected it. The president of Burkina Faso and the current rotating president of the AES made it clear that the Alliance of Sahel has neither injunctions nor lesson on governance to receive from any European entity, particularly from the European actors. He suggested it would be better off focusing on their own internal crisis at home. So that's the response they got from Captain Ibrahim Traore. the ever reliable leader. Actually, that's what I'm going to say. So the AES further accused the European Union of trying to protect economic and geostrategic interests. I've said this before. It's about resources, it's about energy, linked to to a colonial past and attempting to reestablish a system that does not serve the aspirations of the Sahelian people. So the AES is a regional bloc that is recognized. You see, you don't need too many countries to recognize you. You don't need too many countries to accept that you are free. You don't need too many countries. You need few countries that are powerful, within the intermediate range of power. You need those just approve that now, you're a sovereign country. You are a regional bloc on your own. You are not part of ECOWAS. And to that effect, I can say all the BRIC countries approve of the AES, and some European countries even do too. Now, this is the diplomatic front. This is the Europeans trying to fight for their interests, okay? And it doesn't matter how they come. It means that Europe currently, they're in trouble. Mr. Nelson, welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you for coming, Mr. Nelson. It means the Europeans are in trouble right now. This is a very, very clear indication that the Europeans are in trouble. When it comes to energy, they're in trouble, And when Donald Trump called on the Europeans to join the fight in the Strait of Hormuz and all of that, the reason the Europeans didn't join is because economically, the Europe is now down to zero. Most of the European giants, they are on loans now. You can see the protest in France with the farmers, the pensioners. A lot is going on in this country, and there is, massive protest because their leaders cannot manage the economic and they cannot manage the economy of the country. They cannot manage the governance of the country properly. And these are not even these are not democracies anymore. Yeah, these are not democracies anymore. I can say that Europe is now drifting into a different direction. Okay. And Donald Trump should not blame them. Donald Trump should not blame them for not joining the fight. Even if it's a fight of choice, right? The only reason why Europeans cannot join this fight is because, one, they don't have the technical capability to have any relevance in that fight. They don't have the technical know-how to pose any type of relevance in that conflict going on in the Middle East. They have zero chance. Secondly, they don't have the financial capability. The money they are trying to borrow Ukraine right now, the 90 million euro, thereabouts, it's a loan. They don't have it. They were even talking about taking some of the Russian money in Euroclear, which Belgium stood against. So these guys are trying to fight for their strategic interests. You see, coming back to Africa, saying that you need to reassert and, re-strategize and do a lot of things is all fake. So the question is, are we even supposed to take lessons from people that cannot even manage their own system properly? We've come to a point in life where we will not be judged by our complexion, race, or whatever ethnic group. We'll be judged by the content of our character and by our capability. How capable are you? How qualified are you? How competent are you? Emmanuel Macron has shown that he doesn't have the competence to rule a country like France. Fact. So, and what are the European Union, what have they been doing recently? They've been sanctioning to the point where the sanctions no longer have any type of meaning again, because Russia has become sanction proof. Can they sanction China? They were condemning China recently. And what did China say? The Chinese representative said they are not trying to compete with any small country, that their new purpose is to go to space and start developing different things in the space, helium-3 and thereabout. They said they have no time competing with any small country. That is how China sees the Europeans. So these are local bullies. These are not even real bullies that are trying to impose their will by threatening, independent governments that are doing great things for their people in Africa. Have you heard that there's any European country that shares revenue of whatever, not even natural resources, revenue of their, strategic resources with their citizens? There's no country. Nobody's coming close. So this only means that given more time, the Alliance of Sahel, they are going to even do something even better than what they are doing now. They need time. But I have to say this. The freedom of the AES state is not going to be a given. It's going to be a struggle. We understand that it's going to be a struggle. That's why we are supporting the Alliance of Sahel States. We know it's not going to come on the platter of gold. For the United States to be free from Britain, they had to beat them up. I don't know. The United States battalion were led by George Washington, thereabout. From the diplomatic front, a lot of protest was going on. And on the military front, they won every battle and they completely devastated Britain in the war. For them to be free, to be like, that was the real independence. It wasn't like, they went to some United Nation, whatever. No. Britain got hammered so that they could recognize that, okay, the United States right now is now a sovereign country. You don't know how matured a boy child is until the day you try to slap the boy and probably he blocks that hand that is incoming, and you can feel the competence of that hand that is using to block wow, you'll be like, man, this boy is no longer a kid. I think it's just that way. People really don't understand things properly until you make them understand that we've come of age. This is Europe trying to fight for survival. This is Europe trying to fight for their energy. The energy situation of Europe right now is a complete disaster. And by proxy, Iran has not allowed any of the European countries to go through the Strait of Hormuz. They are not doing it. And France continue to condemn, Iran. Even if they are saying that the war must stop, they are taking sides. Okay? Germany took sides. You see, they took the negative position, but they didn't join actively in the conflict. Like I said, not because they don't want to join, but they don't have the technical relevance and they don't have the financial capability to join the fight. They don't have. They are now borrowing money to support Ukraine in the conflict with Russia. So what I feel is, this is part of the fight. You can see that they are not talking about Burkina Faso. They are not really talking about Mali. Even if gold is extremely important. Burkina Faso has gold, right? They are talking about Niger because of the uranium. Yes. This is a real cry. And the only way for them to manufacture a very significant type of dissent, is to bring somebody like Bazoum. And, if you grant that type of very foolish resolution they made, if you grant it, it means that they can undermine you. They will only become more emboldened. And like I said, there is nothing anybody can do about the decision of the Alliance of Sahel, except the Alliance of Sahel State and their people decide otherwise. There is nothing anybody can do. I believe they don't understand. Europe need energy. Why not buy? The reason why they can't buy from Russia and they cannot buy, because look, Financially, they cannot spend the way they used to spend. Burkina Faso recently banned the export of tomatoes from a country. These people are trying to, you see, the problem now is they are saying that, you see, a lot of people don't understand something. The decisions of this sovereign, these three independent states, this confederation, the decisions they make, whatever decision they make, is a very big problem for the European blueprint for Africa. When Captain Ibrahim Traore, the Malian president, and the Nigerian president declares that nobody should send certain, raw material out of the country unless it's finished and they get real value, it affects the European template for Africa, which is supposed to be that you are going to be, the low value chain. You are going to supply the raw material while we finish the product, and we're going to possibly give you aids in return. I want you to get I want you to get the analytics properly. There has never been a benefit from this relationship. It's not even there's nothing bilateral about it. You are going to supply the low value raw material as the farmer that you are, for those that choose not to be free. And we are going to, do you know what Nigeria used to do before? We had crude oil, we export the crude oil, then we pay money for the exportation of that. Like, we pay money to send our crude oil, we pay for the shipment to send our crude oil to Oman. There is this very low level refining they do they carry out, and they sell the refined petroleum back to us in Nigeria. Now, a lot of people are looking at Niger like this pressure is just for uranium alone. No, it's not for uranium alone. Niger has a significant amount of silver. And silver is a semiconductor. The best semiconductor you can look for anywhere. And apart from silver, they have petroleum. Niger has an enormous amount of crude oil. And they have bilateral cooperation with China for the exploration of that crude oil. And there is a transfer of technology. Recently, you can see the agreement they had with Algeria. So it is not in the interests of Europe that they are struggling and they are in trouble. And there is an African country somewhere that is splitting revenues of their strategic resources amongst their citizens. They don't see it as constitutional. When they say something is not constitutional, that is what they see as non-constitutional. It's not Bazoum. Bazoum has been in prison for so long, getting the reward of his crime to a point that I don't even think is. I don't. Look, Bazoum cannot manage anything anymore when it comes out. So, what would they say about China? A country where when you steal something as a government official, it's a death sentence immediately. You see, for Africa to grow, we need to be very ruthless with ourselves. For Africa to develop, do you know the level of fraud that is going on in Africa? And this is what they want. See, look, a lot of people would say something like, you say things like, our leaders are very corrupt. Okay, our leaders are very corrupt. They are the ones. Are the Europeans the one? Let me tell you something. By design, Africa leaders are supposed to be extremely corrupt. Because if they are not corrupt, and your democracy, your governance is so transparent, your governance so competent, Africa will develop at a pace. See, look, everything is already designed to fail, to continue failing. Why do you think Ruto is one of the most loved presidents in Africa by the Europeans? because it is in their interests that Africa continue to produce extremely despicable individuals. Look at this guy in Cameroon. What can he do again? Can he even speak? But yet, the oldest president, you know what they called him when he emerged as the new president of Cameroon? They said the undefeated and undisputed, meaning no dispute. So, as an African, it undermines you completely. Whatever exploit you have, however intelligent you might be, regardless of your technical know-how, they will say, look, if your best representative is Paul Biya, you can't be, I'm telling you, people will end up asking you, like, man, you're from that country. How come, don't look at that question. They used to ask, does it mean that you people don't have good people in your country? That's you. That's those individuals asking you the questions, telling you that, man, you look foolish. Why are you standing here? Look at Nigeria. As intelligent as Nigerians are, the best product is Tinubu. Look at Congo right now. Look at their new president. He can hardly walk. We know there is experience. We know there is a place for experience, which we cannot deny. But the fact is, are you saying that there are no personnel in those countries that have understudied this leader for so long to the point that they've gained some game where they can successfully transition into the leadership position? So the fact that you have young, competent, reliable, responsible, respectful leaders in the Alliance of Sahel is a problem for the Western design of Africa. Because there's a design. Your governance is supposed to be useless. So that by virtue of adaptation, naturally, human beings, it comes to a point human beings begin to adapt to extremely nasty situation. Yes, they will start adapting. You think they're adapting. Some people will tell you in Nigeria, they will say Nigerians can adapt to anything. No, you cannot adapt to anything. Look, what you call adaptation is like, if you stay too long in a barber shop, you will get a very good haircut. If you stay too long in an extremely violent environment, you're going to, by design, become violent in your reactions, in your speech, in what you do, in your conduct, your morality. Everything is going to change. That is the nurture part of nature, environmental influence. So there's a reason why African leaders, if you look at Nigeria now, you will discover that most of the political leaders, right, at every sector, they are extremely corrupt. Getting to power is about corruption. Power is about corruption. Look at the level of terrorism you have in the country. Even the terrorists celebrated Salah. They posted pictures all over the place. The terrorists in Nigeria. But if there's a president that stands up today and that is ready to take decisive decision, what would the Europeans say? They will now go back to their parliament and say, you are abusing humanitarian law. You are abusing the United Nations Convention. For terrorists, they've done it to Mali. They've done it to Burkina Faso. They said they were killing the terrorists too much. That the terrorists are being recruited from certain ethnic group. And they know that it's from those ethnic groups. Instead of rehabilitating the terrorists, they choose to kill them. That there is a place for rehabilitation, re-education. That is it is because there is bad education, right? And there is poverty. That's why they are going into terrorism. These things are being weaponized. Bad governance, bad education, poverty. It's from top to bottom, so that this manufacturing, this non-state capabilities can be very easy for them. So if you choose at this point to stay out of the business of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, that means you don't desire freedom. I don't know if you read that resolution properly. They equally made this empty threat against Uganda, speaking about Bobby Wine. Kabobi. Okay? Kabobi. Look at the ugly nickname they gave him. Kabobi. They said, that Yoweri Museveni, had made a threat on his life and all of that. Have you heard anything about Kabobi since then? Have you even... These people just sit down in some bubble and they just make decisions trying to show that they are still relevant. No, they are not. Having bilateral cooperation with Kenya, with Nigeria, with South Africa does not give you the justification to think you can trespass into other people's spaces. If the African Union, which is particularly a non-entity, a non-existent union or the organization in Africa, cannot speak on the European affairs, then who are you to speak about whatever is going on in Africa? Who are you? So these are the things that we need to critically talk about. I am with the Alliance of Sahel every step of the way. And like I said, we are think tanks here. Okay? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I am going to say this. And mark my word, you can come back some other time and tell me, oh, Andre, you were wrong about this. You were right about this. I'm going to tell you that there's nothing that the European Union are going to do about it. I'm not saying this for fun. I'm just telling you by prediction, by calculation, by everything, they cannot do anything about it. What are they going to do? Do they have the look? You see, what they are doing right now is what I call creating diversional means, creating a sort of diversional therapy for their citizens. Talking about Sahel, putting your nose in Russia's situation, putting your nose in the Persian Gulf, trying to manipulate their citizens, trying to create a sort of, should I say, get me busy in a jobless situation, just to distract their citizens from the realities on the ground at home. Home is bad, extremely bad. Europe is not the same Europe we used to know. But these entities are trying to manipulate their citizens to kind of make their citizens feel like, let's look at what is going on in the Middle East right now. Couple months ago, it was about Epstein file, right? Then the war in the Persian Gulf. Before the war in the Persian Gulf, Epstein file, it was the eyes, right? It was the eyes. And it's one chaos and conflict after another. And the essence of this whole manipulation is to divert people's mind. Oh man, he took this decision. This decision is right. This decision is wrong. No, don't forget. Let's go back to the root cause of all this problem. It's the Epstein file. The only reason why you are in that conflict in the first place is because of the Epstein file. So don't talk about the Cog Island. Don't talk about putting boots on the ground. It's to divert attention. Because when there is no attention diversion, right? If you get to the midterm election, people have enough reason to get these entities out of power. They will get them out of power. But they are trying to do a lot of things. Okay, put boots on the ground. Then after some time, oh, we are going to send more boots. We are going to do this. And in the midst of a serious level of conflict, a lot of people would not have, they will not have what it takes to think properly and be like, oh, they might think, oh man, he's making the right decision. Before you know, they'll start manipulating your mind. No, we need peace so that we can address the root cause of all the problem, the Epstein file. I'm telling you, the Epstein file is the only reason why the United States is in this conflict. So let's talk about the Epstein file. Let's talk about what ICE have done. Let's talk about the role of ICE in the United States. How many people have been killed? In Europe, why is the situation so bad? Everybody wants to blame. I've said it. I said it some months back. I don't know if for our day ones, I said it. I said they are going to try to do everything. I said, look, the war in Ukraine, before the Persian Gulf situation happened, that really, really exposed Europe. I said, these guys are going to tell you that the reason why our economy is bad is because, the people in Niger, they are not trying to have constitutional form of governance. We are back to the same thing. It's because the reason why our government, France especially, the reason why our government is bad is because, they are not going through constitutional democracy right there. No, leave Niger alone. The people in Niger are happy. Nobody should talk about bilateral cooperation in military. The only bilateral cooperation we need from anybody is that they should stop funding the terrorists. Stop funding the terrorists in Nigeria and terrorism will end. Stop funding the terrorists in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, and terrorism will end. I want you to understand how evil these entities are. There is no bilateral cooperation anywhere. Because if they don't fund the terrorists, there won't be a reason, there won't be an excuse to want to sign a bilateral cooperation with you. So we understand this game. And they've now taken censorship to a whole new level. Educating people, telling the truth, um, is no longer seen as something good. It's now seen as being irresponsible because you're saying the truth. I was listening, I was shocked today. I was watching a video of one of the US, should I say congressman, who said that the only thing they were able to guarantee Ayatollah Khamenei was that. And he smiled and he said, they deliver. He has now gotten his 72 virgin, something like that. And he smiled. I was like, have we made this 72 virgin thing popular in the Android community? I think we need to look for a new, we need to look for a new, we need to look for a new code word, a new strategic word in the Android community. The 72 virgin era is gone. We are now going to manufacture a new code. Because I was shocked, like, man, this sounds so much like the Android community slang. And it's smart, and it was like they gave it, we've delivered the 72 version to it. I was like, man, this sounds like man, no, we are going to, well, in fact, that's not constitutional anymore. we are now going we are going to adopt a constitutional slang again. So let's go back to the main thing. I think Europe is desperate. I think they're trying, they're watching. I can guarantee you. Sometimes, back in the days, channel will freeze and something like that. There's a lot going on actually, but we're fine, as long as everybody got everybody, you watch my left, I watch your right, we are good. I feel like Europe is trying to fight for their interests. Okay. Um, the whole thing so you're like, the whole thing, right, is we can give the language to people that want to use it, you know we can give the language to the because I believe we were the first, the Android community was the first community to trademark that. Nobody did it the way Android community did it. The whole 72 virgin now, like we man, we made this shit happen. Oh man. So now what I'm going to say is that Europe is trying to fight for their interests because the energy is in shambles. And to fight for their interests, they need a cheap energy from some, almost a free energy, and slogan appropriation. And Bazoum gave them that guarantee. We've heard from videos where Bazoum was saying that Niger does not need uranium, that the uranium is better with Orano than with Niger. I don't even understand that. For me, I would say it would have been better for France if they had been able to dispose the uranium contaminants, if they've been able to dispose it properly, but you didn't do all those things. Those are the basic minimum you should have done. Okay, if they had been able to take the necessary precautions just to make sure that people's life were not affected negatively, I can still be like, you know what, well, maybe, but you took every wrong step in the textbook, and now you are talking about, that is that. Now we have another information, right? Chad have now decided to send 800 combat ready, you know, men to Haiti. That's the new decision that Chad has made, that they are going to be sending 800 combatants. So, according to the information, Chad to send 800 security personnel to Haiti to strengthen anti-gang force official. The Chadian forces are expected to arrive by June, a senior Chadian police official told the British news agency. The United Nations Bar Gang Suppression Force, which is replacing the previous mission largely composed of Kenya police now, gradually withdrawing, will reach its full strength of 5,500 personnel by October. The Dominican Republic Foreign Minister Roberto Alvarez said last week. So, I don't know what to say about Chad. I don't know what to say about Chad. What I would say is that Haiti needs a good government. And whatever anyone says, I will say this. You don't need force to change the people of Haiti. Yeah, there might be gang, there might be this. But I can promise you, if Haiti have a good government, things are going to change. If 80, I'm saying again, if the 80 people have good government, things are going to change. And if you've been able to catch up with what is going on in Africa, you will understand that the root cause of whatever problem going on in Haiti is still the same root cause of the problem we have in Africa. These gangs did not just come out of the blue. No. If you look at Iran, the people that are trying to destabilize Iran, they are enabled, they are funded, by, these same people. There are only a single enemy. They are not much, just one enemy block. The more their influence wane, the more peace the world is going to have. But I can guarantee you, the Chadian president, right? what I would say is, according to the information we had right now, he has now declared a total blockade between the border of Chad and um, the border of Sudan. Because according to the information we had, the RSF crossed into the Chadian border and they killed a lot of Chadian troops. So this has now triggered a serious escalation between Chad and you know Sudan. And according to the information we are hearing now, the Chadian president Marshal Itno Deby is now saying that they must reciprocate. So what reciprocation means, I don't know. Okay. But the good thing that is going on in Chad right now is that we never have a moment of peace. You can see. So, like I said, the best way to end the problem of Haiti is to have a good leader. You know, good leadership can change everything. I'm telling you, good leadership can change everything. So now, um, we have a situation in Sudan where the Sudanese armed forces, they are really, really advancing on every front against the RSF. The RSF has been taking major damage from the Sudanese armed forces. They're gaining a lot of territory. They are re-establishing their authority in a lot of places in their territory. And there is locals that have been internally displaced. They are coming back to their territory. Though we are now having a new escalation in South Sudan. But Sudan is making massive progress. You know, Dagalo's men are on the back foot. So I feel like the Sudanese, this is a time for them to not sleep. My opinion, this is the time for you. You don't have to close your eyes right now. Make sure you take advantage of whatever is going on in the Middle East and completely crush the RSF. This is your best opportunity. This is your best opportunity. The United Arab Emirates, uh, their means of finance have been devastated too much in this conflict. You know, the gas field, the oil reserve they have, the gold, nothing is working for the United Arab Emirates. And the United Arab Emirates have been doing a lot. You know, they have been saying that they are going to stand firm against Iran. They condemn the action of Iran. They have been the only one doing that. But the more they condemned, the more punches that they continue to take from Iran. So at the end of the day, I think this is the best opportunity. And the fact that the Sudanese army now have the support of Saudi Arabia, I think Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they had a difference and they had to settle their difference on Saudi Arabia started, battering the UAE. And before this conflict, the Sudanese armed forces have been gaining even more momentum because they now finally got the backing of Saudi Arabia. But this conflict has finally changed the calculus of combat. So the RSF, they are not making the type of you know advances they've been making. So at the end of the day, I think it's time for the Sudanese armed forces to establish their footprint and make sure they route the RSF completely. I mean, reduce them to nothing. Make sure that they won't have the opportunity to do this again. Now we have a situation in the Persian Gulf where the Yemenis, they have now been able to block another strait. So this will choke the entire the entire enemy alliance, and make sure that this war will end very soon. I think blocking the oil export and all of that will make sure, okay, that the world will put pressure on the aggressors in this conflict to end the conflict. We all desire that this conflict should not go beyond where it is at right now. We don't want more conflict. We don't want more wars. we want this war to end here. No matter what anybody says, I can guarantee you, because Iran has now warned Britain. Yes, I don't know if you've all heard. Iran has now warned Britain that allowing the United States to use your military base, you know, means that you are actively participating in the conflict. Do I think the United do I think Britain can stand an Iranian aggression? I don't think so. I don't think so. Let's call a spade a spade. If you remove the US from this conflict, the rest, they will suffer from Iran to the point where Iran says, okay, I'm done with you. If you remove the US from this conflict, the rest, see, what I've learned from this conflict is that Iran can actually batter the entire Middle East single-handedly with a proxies. That is the fact. Without both Israel, UAE, like Iran has that power. I don't know. I think Turkey and Pakistan, they are with Iran. That is what we have been able to discover right now. Turkey and especially Pakistan. And the information we are getting right now is that the Pakistani, ships, they are now allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And I can guarantee you something. Iran, in this conflict, this conflict that you and me we are watching, I don't think Iran is halfway to whatever your politicians are telling you in the United States. Iran is not even halfway close to that point. Because I can guarantee you, if Iran is weak, if Iran is showing any sign of surrender, I'm telling you that Pakistan will come into the war. Last July, I think June or July, during the 12-day war, you can see that at some point, Pakistan got into the game. Yes, Pakistan got. You can see that none of these aggressors have been able to try to fly through the Pakistan territory or whatever. And now the supreme leader, I love this supreme leader, the new supreme leader of Iran. I love that supreme leader more than his father. I'm not. I don't even have any type of. He said that Afghanistan and he said Afghanistan and Pakistan should stop the conflict. He said it is not in the region, is not in the interest of the region for Pakistan and Afghanistan to be fighting against themselves. And if you look at it from a tactical and a strategic standpoint, it doesn't benefit the region. It doesn't benefit the Middle East for Pakistan and Afghanistan to be going against themselves. It will only make the region weaker. The region needs to be stronger. I don't know why I think the Middle East has the same issue that Africa has. And the issue is they're supposed to unite. And I think there's a lot of division in the Middle East. So they are supposed to unite, in my own opinion. A united Middle East is a strong Middle East. And I think after this conflict, this Muitaba Khamenei will do everything he can to make sure that, the entire Middle East is united. How that goes, I don't know, because the whole Sunni Shia thing is still there. But I think he might be able to do it. He's younger, he's smarter, because this guy is still in Iran and he has not even been bombed. And he continues to do what he does, It means that he's very, very smart. Muitaba Khamenei is extremely smart. The fact that they've not gotten him right now is smart. And it means that his operational security and his communication security is highly, highly covered. Super covered. And I can say at this point, there are still spies on the ground in Iran. There are spies on the ground in Iran, and they need to watch out critically for it. They've captured a lot of spies. I think by today it should be 700 and I think 720 now, but they need to even do more than that. They need to do more than 720. There are several spies that are still in Iran. And the only reason why anyone might think that, you know, that Israel has some, you know, that Israel has some magic. There is no magic anywhere. There is no magic anywhere. You only have traitors within your country. There is no magic. There is no automatic intelligence from anywhere. There is no AI from God knows blue. The truth is that there are some people within, there are some enemies within that are selling out their people. That is just the only thing. There is no magic anywhere. And it is not that the Iranians are just selling their people because they are bad people or whatever. These things are carefully orchestrated, they are engineered. Okay. Before espionage, there is a thing called economic, um, you know, economic disaster. So they engineer a sort of economic, you know, trouble within your country where the economy is facing serious disaster. There is inflation. The currency will start dropping. They weaponize the dollar against your currency. They put a lot of sanction on you. um okay, I will check. So they put a lot of sanction on you. They make you feel very, very tired, right? So when they start paying stipend to your citizens will believe that, oh man, this is a very, very huge amount of money and all of that. And the problem with Iran is that when you are trying to block these people, you have to block them completely. You don't block them halfway. And if you block them completely, they will claim that your government is a bad, very, very bad government, that there is no freedom of speech, there is no freedom of this and that. But that's not the thing. They are trying to destroy you from inside outside. The same thing they did in Libya. They do this everywhere. I don't know if a lot of people understand. This is not defending democracy. This is not defending freedom. This is how they destroy nations with certain, plots. How do you say that the Iranians, that there's no free journalism and all of that, but there's censorship in Israel? The double standard is extremely bad. You know, why are you not saying that Israel is, look at the RT correspondent where a missile was dropped very close to him. The double standard is just too much. And if you are not speaking against this, one way or the other, I don't know when you will ever speak against anything that is not good. When you try to protect the dignity of your people, they will tell you that you are a dictator. They will say you are not in a democracy, you are a dictatorship. This lies, we are beginning to understand that these lies can no longer fly anywhere. What did they say about Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso? They said it's a dictatorship. They said because there are no Western journalists on the ground, media has been stopped, there is no free speech. Yeah, they said there is no free speech. I think you all saw the Al Jazeera information that I brought to you here. You know, there was no queue. The Al Jazeera correspondent was lying right there. And Al Jazeera is almost exclusively funded by Qatar. And now let me say this again. This is going to be the last thing I'm going to say on this live stream. Al Jazeera, right, is funded by Qatar. Qatar is an ally of Israel and the United States. And who are the allies of Israel and United States apart from Qatar? The UAE, right? Apart from the UAE. So when you see Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, and all this, you think they are from the Middle East? No, they are all the same entities. So the allies are the Europeans. So just calculate, look at the connection like that. Okay, down. So one of the entities, right, is against the interest of the AES. So when you see the way Al Jazeera behaves in certain situation,
you will definitely know why Al Jazeera, that is supposed to be a transparent, news outlet, is becoming very, very partial and becoming very, very irresponsible. It is because these entities are being controlled. The NGOs, most of them have been knocked out. You see, you can now see. We don't need to say this anymore. You can now see that all these things that you see as a show of love, a show of goodwill, you can see that there's nothing good about it. They take raw material from you, you know, they give you aid, and they sell the finished product back to you in one way or the other. Because some of those raw materials are used to manufacture the things that are still going to be sold back to you. So if you look at it, it's a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose on one side, and it's a win-win on another side. And the price of the raw material is extremely, extremely, unimaginably cheap. But the finished product is unimaginably expensive. And now I'm going to ask one last question before I go. They used to tell you that one of the fruits of colonialism, of colonization in Africa, was education. Now I'm going to ask, education. Have Africa been able to manufacture an airplane? Have we? The, you know, have we been able to manufacture any type of engine? Tires are not manufactured in Africa. The rim of vehicles are not manufactured in Africa. It's a big question. So, what was that education about? The best thing, apart from doing what a bricklayer, see, if a bricklayer, as a medical expert, if a bricklayer that has no education can stay very, very attentive and go through 5 years of internship, I can guarantee you that that bricklayer will do the same thing you are doing in a theater. If he 5 years of attention, if he can learn properly, he can focus, he will do the same thing. I've been on the field, so I continuously ask my colleague, who are we? Why are we calling ourselves professionals? I know because we went to school, yeah, the doctrine, the core values, and every other thing. But this is what we do here is so routine to the point that anybody from anywhere can come and learn these things. Then theories without manufacturing anything, without being able to invent, innovate. So when you look at it, what is that education all about? If the education was true, we should be having EVs completely manufactured from engine to tires to rim to hull, everything, not assemblage. What you have in Africa is assembly. So, we have lithium. How many batteries have been produced? Batteries, I mean, high quality batteries from Africa, lithium batteries, high quality. How many have we been able to do? We have cobalt. What are we manufacturing? So Africa needs to start thinking in this direction. The best thing, the best that I think they gave was English, French, German, and Portuguese in some places. And what else? Nothing else. So this is why Africans, we need to understand, we need to grow from here. That's why I said my Yoruba channel, in fact, in Yoruba, I'm even more sophisticated because it's my indigenous language. And I've already created a channel. I'm gonna drop my first video on the Yoruba channel by tomorrow. So now I'm gonna say something. For everyone that used to donate through the super chat or whatsoever, I'm gonna say this. I would appreciate if you don't donate to the super chat anymore. Just your like is okay for me. If you want to contribute to the Andre community, we have a Flutter Wave account. So if you want to really, really support us, because the next thing we want to do is to I want to create a like a real studio. That's my that's the next thing I want to do. A real studio. This is where I live. So I want to create like, I want to have everything, and I want to like be having like sessions where I bring people, right, to for interviews. Like you can see the microphone one day in, one day out, but I've been able to put the microphone in check for a while. So if you really, really want to donate, right, we have a Flutter Wave link in our bio. Whatever, $1, whatever your currency, you can support the Android community. So thank you and God bless you. Making tires, I will check out that guy in Burkina Faso. So thank you and God bless you. I think I've been able to give you some value today. So I appreciate your coming. And do you still want this to membership? Um, it's the thing is it's not beneficial. How? This I'm seriously censored. Like it's obvious now that I'm censored. Okay, now I'm censored, and the revenues is still shared. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so that's why I said a friend of mine helped me open a Flutter Wave today, and the link is there. My account on Flutter Wave have been verified, so you can support the community from anywhere through the Flutter Wave. So the link is in our bio, so you can easily do your donation there. So thank you and God bless you.